Welcome to the show, y'all. It's the Greg Davis Show. We gon' talk the talk, so get ready. We came to push the call, educating. So just lock that down and keep it steady. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Everything is alright. We're gonna help you get your life. It's the Greg Davis Show.
Welcome to the Greg Davis Show. I'm Greg Davis from the studios of Impact Network. We welcome you to come into our conversation today. We're going to have a great conversation. If you're thinking money, which everybody right now is thinking money, whether it be the end of the year, the beginning of the year, you're thinking how to get those finances together. And of course, the other piece that you're thinking about is how to lose some weight. We'll talk about that on another show, but we're going to talk money today. We're going to talk about your money. We're going to talk about when you don't have enough money. We're going to talk about stilettos and money. What does stilettos and money have to do anything? We're going to tell you in just a few minutes. But meanwhile, don't forget Lola's out today. Still follow her and tell her get well soon. She's having a little sinus issues. She left me. I told her I was going to fire her, and it's about going to happen now. She left me by myself. But anyway, it's the Greg Davis Show, and you can follow us, Bishop Greg Davis, across the country, social media on Facebook, Periscope. I think I might have a MySpace somewhere too. You can follow me anywhere, be a part of what's going on, follow me behind the scenes, even as we do our radio show every morning from 8 a.m. to 9:30. You can follow us on Periscope, me and Lola, the Greg Davis Show, Cleveland, Ohio, Atlantic City, and yes, even Phoenix, Arizona, from coast to coast. Also, don't forget, you can go to YouTube channel and look at the archive shows that you've enjoyed on the Greg Davis Show YouTube channel. Today we're blessed to have a young lady who for nearly a decade has been sought after managerial accountant specializing in small business operations, and her expertise in accounting, tax strategy, and operations has allowed her the successful service of a plethora of diverse businesses. Welcome to the show today, Miss Tretta Bush. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
And we're going to talk about your social media presence because you go on social media and give people tips. But before we do that, who is Tretta Bush?
Tretta Bush, she ain't nobody special. She all right, but I'm a small business accountant, as you said before, and I am also, what most people know me for is I'm a women's wealth advocate. I develop tools and resources to equip the everyday woman with the tools that she needs to make intelligent and impactful financial decisions.
So at what point in your life you said, this is what I want to do? I want to work in the area of accounting, first of all, and then at what point did you say, I don't just want to crunch numbers, but I want to empower women?
Accounting, me and numbers have always been friends. I've loved math from elementary school, from the beginning, as early as I can remember. I've always liked to crunch numbers, play around with numbers. I started playing around with income tax returns in the 11th grade, doing them through college, and I started doing them for other people immediately after graduating from college.
You were doing what in 11th grade?
Income tax returns.
Everybody else out enjoying this.
I was doing income tax returns, yeah.
Making
and
money.
That's fun to me. That was fun to me, right? So, and at that time, I was not making money doing it. I just liked doing it. I liked.
It was fun.
It was fun doing income taxes, and it's ironic now because I hate doing tax now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that was my first real interaction with accounting. And for the empowerment part of it, that came along when I hit rock bottom financially. I went to college at 17, making some very poor financial decisions with regards to credit. I didn't understand what credit was, how it should be used. I grew up seeing my mom use coupons and seeing my parents save, but I didn't know the intricate details of managing your finances. And so when that hit me right after college, and I had to pull myself out of that ditch, I made a vow that I'm not only going to help myself, but I want to help other women who are in this situation as well, because I know I'm not the only person who didn't have this knowledge, who needs the knowledge.
I want to back up because I have a daughter that's finishing her tenure in college, and blessed that she had a sister that graduated from Michigan State and kind of told us some things not to do and to do. And one was to get her a credit card, but make sure that she always was on time with it. And blessed to say that it worked for her because her credit score is teetering near 800. And
That's amazing.
that credit, bought her own car with her own credit and her own money, although I'm helping pay the car note, but at least she did that with her own name. What are the do's and don'ts for some mothers watching or mother and fathers watching now? The do's and don'ts is they send their child to college, but they want them to establish themselves.
When dealing with credit, you have to pay your bill in full every month. That minimum monthly payment that you see on your credit card statement at the end of the month is not enough to put a dent in the amount that you owe to the credit card companies, and that's how they make their money. They make their money off of interest, and as long as you're making your minimum monthly payments, then you're making them rich. Credit is a game. It's a game that you have to play because it's very necessary if you want to buy a home. It's very necessary if you want to buy a car, if you don't have the cash to do so. I do tell people to pay for as much as they can in cash. If you can't afford it in cash, Dave Ramsey says that you can't afford it. But we're living in a time where credit is very necessary.
Say that again. Back up. We got a whole show. Dave Ramsey said what now?
If you can't afford to pay it in cash, then you can't afford it.
Wow.
Which is true, because if you have to borrow money to get it, that means that you can't afford to pay it. Someone else had to pay for it for you so that you can return the funds back to them.
Like the old folks say, I'm paying on time. We're going to buy that and pay it on time.
Pay it on
little
time.
cards and
Yep.
the insurance man. Yeah, the funny thing about it, I remember about the insurance man who came and picked up the little $10 or $20 a month. And when my grandparents died, them little policies wasn't worth but $1,000. They had paid
$1,000, $3,000 max. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they had paid thousands of dollars just with them.
And that same concept is true
Right.
for credit. You know, circling back to your question, not only do you have to make your minimum monthly payments, well, more than the minimum monthly payments, when you're using a credit card, you shouldn't use more than 30 to 50% of the available balance, because there is a score, your credit score, that is looking at how much of the available credit you're using. And even though you're paying your bill off every month, you could still hurt your credit score if you're overutilizing the credit card.
What did you do specifically wrong? You said you hit rock bottom.
With my credit, yes. So I had every card that was offered to me. I went to college 17. I love shopping. I had Visa. I think I had 2 Visas, MasterCard, American Express, department store cards.
American Express in school?
In college.
Wow.
Department
Don't go
store
try
cards.
that at home.
Department store cards, I had them all. I had it, and I was using them all, and I was cute at homecoming, and sometimes I would make the payments, and sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes I would look at the card and say, I don't want to make the payment. I want to go buy something else instead of making the payment. And so I was just in a horrible habit of using credit improperly and not paying for it.
Wow. So at what point, let's go back to, at what point did you say, okay, this is not good, I need to turn this around? And then at what point did you say, I need to help others with this?
I didn't say this is not good.
You didn't?
I didn't. I graduated college and decided I want to be an entrepreneur. So I'm going to go get me an office space. No clients, no business plan, no strategy, nothing. I'm going to go get me an office space, because with credit cards, I could use the credit cards even though I didn't have any money, right? So I went to get this office space, and you go through to get a commercial lease, you have to go through a credit process. And I didn't know what a credit report was. I didn't know what a credit score was. I didn't know anything about credit. And so when they came back and told me that I was denied the office space, even though I could afford to pay the monthly rent because I had a job at that time, I was devastated.
That's important that what you just said. Even though you could afford it,
Even though I could afford to make the payments,
they still refused you
they
because
still
of your
denied
credit.
me.
Okay.
Because my credit history says that I am not to be trusted. I'm not trustworthy when it comes to other people allowing me to use their assets to my advantage.
Yeah. And so at that point, what happened?
At that point, I had to learn what a credit score was, because they told me that my credit score wasn't sufficient. I didn't know what that was, so I had to figure that out. And they told me that my credit report had a lot of delinquent bills on it. I didn't know what that was either, so I had to figure that out. So from there, I spent 3 years not only educating myself, but digging myself out of a hole. And at the end of those 3 years, there was the really long, excruciating, lonely process. At the end of those 3 years, I decided that no female should have to do this by themselves, and no college students should have to go to school not knowing what the true implications of those credit cards are. Because you give a student, a child at that point, 17, 18 years old, 19 maybe, access to thousands of dollars without really explaining to them what it is that they're doing to themselves with that money. Most of them are going to take it, and they're going to use it. The same thing with student loans. They're going to take the extra loans even though they don't need it, because they don't have to pay for it in that moment. We are a society of instant gratification, and I fell victim to instant gratification, and I had to pay for it big time.
Why is budgeting so important?
Budgeting is the roadmap to your dream. Right? It is the roadmap, the GPS to whatever it is that you want to do in life. And budgeting has kind of gotten a bad rep because most people think of it as a restrictive process. You know, this, I have to do this, I have to spend my time to do this. It's telling me I cannot buy this. Why can't I buy what I want to buy with my money? I work hard for it, I can do what I want to do. But it really isn't something that's restricting you from getting what you want. It's telling you when you can get it without consequence. It's telling you when you can get whatever it is that you desire without penalty.
It's telling you
when you can have what you desire without penalty.
That's good. That's good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I think that a budget, and most financial advisors, most financial educators are going to tell you that a budget is essential. It is the foundation to your wealth building. You can't do a retirement plan without a budget because you won't know how much you can contribute to it. You can't pay your bills without a budget because you don't know how much money you have and whether or not you can afford a bill or not. Your budget is your day-to-day roadmap to your finances.
The majority of people that are watching us today are Christians.
Yes.
And here's what I believe, and you can tell me I'm wrong. You're the guest. I think most of us live beyond our means.
Most of us do, absolutely.
In the church.
Absolutely.
Because I think that Fred Price wrote a book years ago. I'll never forget it. I taught out of it several times. Faith, Foolishness, and Presumption. Mm-hmm. We lend to the opinion of that a lot of things that we do is faith, and really a lot of it is foolishness because we can't afford it. It is not faith, in my opinion, to buy something that you can't afford.
Correct. And I believe that God gave us a promise. He told us that we can have our heart's desire. He didn't say we can look like we have our heart's desire.
That's good.
And so we're doing him a disservice when we go out and we create bills and take on debt that we do not need for things that we're going to get eventually because he's already told us it was ours. You just have to be responsible. The whole concept of tithing, even, to me, is a money management concept, because he's saying, I'm giving you 100% because I want to see if you can be trusted to give me the 10% back, and I want you to multiply the 90% back to 100% or more.
What do you do when we come back? We're going to ask Tretta, what do you do when there's not enough income to cover the total monthly bills? Everybody, stay tuned, because most of us is going through, I said is going through that right now. You're watching The Greg Davis Show. We'll be right back with Tretta Bush. Hey, I'm Greg Davis, and over 3 years ago, I started posting tweets and posts on When the Right One Comes. Well, I tried to stop, but they wouldn't let me stop. So everybody's been asking me to write a book, When the Right One Comes. So I've taken all of my collections of When the Right One Comes, and I'm putting them in one book. You can pre-order the book right now by going to gregdavisshow@gmail.com. That's gregdavisshow@gmail.com. Order now, When the Right One Comes.
How I Did It. Pick up this life-changing book today by Bishop Greg Davis.
Bishop Davis shares his amazing story of dramatic weight loss,
Overcoming diabetes,
and his new journey to healthy living without surgery, dieting, or medication.
How I Did It. An incredible weight loss story captured in less than 50 pages.
It tells the bishop's testimony of his lifestyle change after being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in April 2010.
In less than 8 months, he lost over 80 pounds and was completely healed of diabetes. diabetes.
To date, he has lost over 110 pounds and feels phenomenal.
How I Did It by Bishop David.
A personal testimony requested by people all over the country.
He did it, and so can you. Order your copy now.
On Amazon.com.
Or send a seed of $25, which includes shipping and handling too.
Greg Davis Ministry, P.O. Box 44072, Detroit, Michigan 48244.
That's Greg Davis Ministry, P.O. Box 44072, Detroit, Michigan 48244.
Welcome back to the Greg Davis Show, and don't forget to find my book. You know what? You need to find both of my books. Go to my new website, gregdavisshow.com. And everybody want to lose weight right around this time, you know, the holidays and all that stuff. Go get my book, y'all. You need it. You know, how I did it, how I lost over 110 pounds without any surgery or anything. Go get it. Go get my book. And then also, when the right one comes, find out all my opinion about the right one. Hey, y'all, guess what? Stop looking for Boaz. He dead. Ruth had him. And look for your own. Be original. Go get my book when the right one comes. GregDavisShow.com. I know y'all talking about me right now, but okay. We're back with Tretta Bush, and we're talking about your finances and building wealth in my stilettos.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're known for.
It is.
Building wealth in your stilettos. Before we go there, what happens when you don't make enough money? You got these bills in front of you, and you got your pencil behind your ear, and you got the calculator there, and it just ain't working. You know, we could use the scripture and say you just put them up and you let God pay your bills for you.
Yes.
But what do you do in the natural?
It's a multi-step process. First, you have to determine whether or not you don't have sufficient income or whether you're not managing it well, because those are two different things.
So there could be a management problem.
It could be a money management problem. You can look over your current spending habits and determine what areas you can cut back. Determine what's a need versus what's a want. And once you cut out your wants and you're only paying for your needs, if you still find that you do not have enough income, you could be in a situation where you just can't sufficiently make it in your current situation. And in that case, you have to decide whether or not it's feasible to downgrade. And if downgrading isn't feasible, you have to get creative in how you're going to create more income.
Isn't it true, though, we cannot listen to the outside voices, and we cannot allow ourselves to try to keep up with the Joneses?
Well, the Joneses are broke as well. They're living off of credit as well.
Ooh, that was good. The Joneses are broke as well.
They're broke as well.
The other pastor really can't afford the car he got while you trying to buy one like him. Trust me when I tell you. And all them bags and all that. Isn't it true that most of us, when you say needs and wants, we get those two mixed up?
We get them mixed up.
Because red bottoms is not.
That is not a need.
That is not a need.
No.
It's a need in your case because you need to keep up with the Joneses, but it's not a need.
It is
really
not a need. And so I tell people all the time, think in terms, when you're trying to determine if something is a need or a want, think in terms of a vehicle. You want a 2015 Mercedes. You need a 1999 Toyota Corolla that's going to get you back and forth to work and home safely to your family. And those are two different levels of financial obligation, because you can buy your 99 Toyota for a couple of thousand while your 2015 Mercedes is going to cost you $50,000+ depending on which one you get.
I'm going to go back to my daughter.
Yeah.
You know, Micah was like, I'm like, Micah, young man used to go out to church, he's selling cars, he can get you a Ford, whatever that Ford truck was. She's like, okay, is that all I got to choose from? I said, he's giving great deals, you know. She goes online looking for a Mercedes.
Yes.
She's 21, she wants a Mercedes. Well, we've created that atmosphere for her. I admit, me and her mom, we've created that, but I'm like, this is what you can afford. And she's reading the ads that say you can walk away with a Mercedes.
For $200?
Yeah.
If you lease it.
If you lease it.
That's on the front end, you know. And so in those situations, which is, you know, very common for the younger generations, my generation. They get caught up in $199 down and you can walk away with the new vehicle. But on the back end of that deal, 4 years later, when you have to turn that vehicle back in, you have to pay them $5,000-6,000 plus any mileage that you went over over the agreement. So you just have to be careful to read the terms of your agreement, because what you don't want to find yourself in is a situation where you're car poor or house poor. You look great in it, but you can't afford to be there, and you can't enjoy it because you can't afford to pay the bills for it.
Talk about that. Let's take it to the church now. Pastor watching. I mean, because you do a lot of nonprofits. You do nonprofits.
I do.
You do corporations also. But basically, my audience right now is probably nonprofits. So I got this church and the tithes and offering. You know, I'm not doing anything else but tithes and offering. I don't have any programs. I don't have any money coming in from the government. But I got this building, and it's just not working. How do you advise a pastor like that?
I think it's easy to get overwhelmed when you're in a situation of lack. And the first thing you need to program your mind to do is to change your perspective. You can only do what you can do one day, one decision, $1 at a time. If it's not there, you can't spend it. So in that case, he's going to have to think about relocation. You know, can you sell the church? Can you rent the church? Can you rent a room or two in the church to a local small business owner who may not be able to go and sign a commercial lease, but they can, you know, rent office space from you? Is there a situation where you can ask your congregation and let them know the church has a need, and, you know, we've used the funds that we have available. Are you willing to, you know, give more to help us cover X, Y, and Z? And I also think that transparency is key when you're asking your members to go above and beyond whatever they've given according to what God has laid on their heart. You have to tell them why they're giving, where it's going, and when feasible, you know, give them proof, whether it be a financial statement or receipts or whatever. Allow them the opportunity to see that you're doing what you asked them to do, and you'll quickly find that they'll give you more every time just to keep you from having to come and ask a second time.
And be honest.
Yes.
Honesty is the best policy. And what I find, gimmicks don't work. Just be very honest with them.
They don't work long term. They work a couple times. They don't work long term.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about these stilettos.
Yes.
Where did the building wealth in my stilettos come from?
Well, I went into debt buying stilettos, so clearly I like them.
Confession.
So clearly I like them, but in my recovery process.
That's where that came from, for real?
Yeah, in my recovery process, I wanted to make responsible decisions, but I didn't feel like I needed to look like I was being dragged out of a ditch when I was doing it. There are ways that you can be responsible, you can be fashionable at the same time. I had to find ways to get what I wanted without spending all the money, or I had to get what I wanted within the limits that I set for myself. And so that's how I learned. That's when I learned the value of price matching and couponing and competitive shopping. You know, I don't necessarily have to go to Saks to buy this particular shirt. Can I get it at Dillard's? The same exact shirt, same exact brand, but a couple $100s cheaper. Do I have to have that label in that shirt? Am I even going to like this shirt in a year? Those are the kinds of things that I was faced. I'm honest, those are the decisions I was faced with. I wanted to be who I was, which was someone who liked to look nice without breaking the bank. And that's, on average, the average woman. She wants to look nice, she wants to feel good about herself, because confidence for us is directly connected to how we feel about ourselves, and we want to be able to make the right decisions as well.
Isn't it true, though, that, as you just said, that we could still look nice, but we don't have to spend the amount of money? I mean, when I was larger, I spent more money. Now that I'm small, I can find stuff on sale, boom, 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 but I'm more cognizant of it now.
Sure.
And so, go ahead.
And I think that that's a change of perspective in how you view money.
Mindset, yeah.
We deal with money based upon our life's experience. We have what I call a filter, a financial filter to how we interact with money based on our life's experience. And if I go through life, for me at 17, if I go through life getting what I want and not really having any real consequence and no one there to hold me accountable to pay my bills, the older I get, the more I'm going to settle into that habit. But when I decide that I want to have something more, when I decide that I want to be financially free, because being in debt is very burdensome, when I decide that I want to be mentally free, financially free, then I'm going to look at money differently. I'm going to look at the exchange of money differently, where I would go and throw $100 at a t-shirt that I may wear once or twice because it has a label on it. I'm going to be more cautious the next time because I had to work harder for that money, and I know what it feels like to be without it. Unfortunately, most of us aren't going to make that transition. That switch is not going to click until we feel the burn of not having it.
We didn't complete the story, and I didn't finish your bio, but it says you represent CEOs and companies that range from $30,000 to $100 million.
$100 million or more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you learned the lesson.
I learned the lesson, and I find myself now, and it's ironic that my nonprofit, Building Wealth in My Stilettos, is focused on empowering women and their financial decisions, but I find myself working with CEOs and bishops and pastors, leaders within the church. I find myself having to have the same discussions with them as well. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about people who are making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month that are still having credit issues, that are still having, they're living paycheck to paycheck because they don't understand the implications of the way that they spend money. They don't understand the implications of their lifestyle.
In some cases, we're no different than ball players.
Yes.
Ball players make millions of dollars and they have nothing to show for it.
And they have nothing to show for it at the end of their contract. And it's because, it's that syndrome. It's always going to be there. It's easy to get. When money is always easy to get, you get comfortable in that space.
Ooh, say that again. Say that again.
When money is always easy to get, you get comfortable in that space. And you think that it will always be there. But we are taxed as believers especially to multiply it, because we are supposed to leave some of our wealth for not only our children but our children's children. That's 2 generations that we're supposed to provide for.
Where can people reach you? We have about a minute and a half to go. And talk about, you have a workbook that they can purchase.
Yes, the Budgeting Notebook for the Fierce is a notebook of...
Budgeting?
The Budgeting Notebook for the Fierce.
Okay.
Yes, is a notebook of templates that I used when I was pulling myself up out of debt. They are the exact templates that I use to pay off my debt, the templates that I use to budget, the templates that I use to record my monthly payments every month and keep track of my bills. And it also has journaling pages in there for you to write your goals, because if you don't write a goal and put a date to it, if you don't have a dream and put a date to it, it never becomes a goal. And if you don't have a goal and put action steps to it, it never becomes your dream. And so I found for me that during my process, I had to hold myself accountable for things that I didn't want people to know I was going through. And so I believe that financial intimacy and financial privacy is important. People would rather undress physically before undressing physically, which is financially, before a stranger. They'll lay with a stranger before they're honest about their finances with a stranger. And that's because it's a very intimate part of who we are. So the Budgeting Notebook for the Fierce was created for the woman who wants to change her situation, and she wants to have some accountability, she wants to get organized, and she wants to be better.
Where can they find it? We got 30 seconds.
TrettaBush.com, TrettaBush.com.
Women, go buy you up some, get it for your church and everything. And she's also available to come speak to you and taking on new clients and all that. All of our guests, they pay their own way here, and so I want you to support them. Her information has been on the screen. It's been the Greg Davis Show. Go get your stilettos, but make sure you can afford them red bottoms. We'll see you next time on the Greg Davis Show.